A friend of mine in the movement, in the Patriot conservative movement, Ivan Raiklin, Green Beret commander, countering ISIS in the Middle East, the Taliban in Afghanistan. This man has been in it. He has been in it, and after observing all of the illegal certified elections of 2020, he began to use his analytical skills and his training, his expertise to investigate and look into the constitutional violation of elections throughout the country. I'm honored to say that he's a friend, Ivan Raiklin, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a big round of applause, Ivan!
All right. Where we at? Where we at? I have to stand? Give me that microphone. All right, I like moving around. Energy, baby. We're going to bring total domination to these scum. We're going to castrate the deep state, and we're going to crush the commies. So I think I have 30 minutes, give or take an hour, to articulate what we're going to be able to do as conservatives, as patriots, nationally, within Wisconsin, and then here locally. And some of y'all are from Iowa, right? Who's from Iowa? Who is from Michigan? Any other state? Illinois! Oh, Illinois is the worst. Good old Chubby Pritzker, huh? All right. So, before I begin, as I was descending on Cuba City, I thought to myself, Cuba, communism. And then my son, Gregory, who got the award, thank you. It was rigged, I get it, thank you. He asked me, Dad, isn't Cuba a communist country? Why, yes it is, bud. So I went to go ahead and take a look at the local press. So the main disinformation purveyor of this town is called Tri-County Press. So on Thursday, September 21st, 2 days ago, an illiterate journalist, quote unquote, says the following. And I want to know their name, by the way, before I leave here tonight. Rally for Trump Saturday in Cuba City. The community known as the City of Presidents will host a rally supporting a former president Saturday. A group called Southwest Wisconsin Patriots, thank you, Craig, for setting that up, will hold what it calls a President Trump Unity Rally 2020 Election Denial Conference in Veterans Memorial Park Saturday 3 to 8. Illustrious Douglas Billings of the Right Side Broadcasting Podcast will host. Scheduled speakers include former Menominee Falls Village President, and by the way, as I mention your name, can you please come up here? Menominee Falls Village President Jefferson Davis, who just spoke. Sheboygan County Republican Party Vice Chair James Tesaro. Retired let me put it this way. They say retired Army Captain Seth Keschel, also known as the local midget. And then they say this. Former Ohio high school teacher Douglas Frank. I think that's called Dr. Douglas Frank to you, whoever this illiterate journalist is. And then I don't know why, but they got mine right, except I am retired. So I'll have to correct them on that as well. The rally will also feature a prize for the best dressed Trump supporter, blah, blah, blah. And it goes into that. So you can hear what adjectives, pronouns, nouns, verbs, adverbs that are being used in that. So even at the local level, you have the main disinformation purveyor that is trying to convince the local populace here that these gentlemen that have served in various capacities, collectively we have a PhD. We have about 20 years collective of military experience. And an MBA. And an MBA, right? I would like to stack that up against the one person that wrote this article and ask them, why don't you come up here and bring your credentials and your life experience and match them just what they've done alone in the last 2 years. They've done more the last 2 years than probably the entire staff of this entire publication in order to be able to remedy the illegally conducted 2020 election and then subsequently illegally certified 2020 election. Who agrees with that? I am hard of hearing because of shooting a lot and exercising my Second Amendment, but I think I heard something. So, in addition, who they failed to mention were hot government. And oh, by the way, where's Harry Waite?
There he is.
Harry is the man. Harry, thanks for coming here. And look, he's got a Purple Heart for crushing the commies here in Wisconsin. Robin Voss he's going after. Remember when he confronted Robin Voss, what did he say? I think this is a family-friendly event, so I'm going to say, expletive, you, Harry, because he was putting foot on Robin Voss's neck early, right? All right, what else we got here?
Rantham.
Timothy Ramthun. Where's he at? The only person in the country of about 7,000 state representatives or state senators in the entire country to have the courage, not the toxic, feckless, stone-cold coward simp courage of like a Mike Pence, but actual courage to go ahead and submit a piece of legislation to correct the illegal 2020 election. That's courage. That's your homegrown Wisconsin guy here. Is it in the paper here? No, because these are election fraud deniers. They are blind. But here's the problem. I'm going to play a clip, and then you guys please sit down.
Anytime. We can stay up here with you the whole time.
Please, please, if you want to.
No thanks. No.
So for the election fraud deniers out there, have you all heard of the name Tucker Carlson? What do you think happened to Tucker Carlson after he was removed by Paul Ryan's faux news? Did it backfire? Did he go from averaging 3 million viewers or less a night on faux news to, oh, I don't know, when he interviewed the President of the United States, I think that's almost 300 million views at this point. It's kind of like 100 times more. That equates to more than what Commie News Networks gets the whole year. And then when he interviews the Argentinian candidate for president, that gets about 500 million views. Interesting. So I'm going to play this short clip. And it looks like the tide is turning because of these gentlemen right here. And yes, absolutely.
And you.
And so here's why I say that. I want you to listen in on this 1.5 minute clip that Tucker Carlson just spoke about yesterday in Michigan, I believe. Remember, faux news told him he can't talk about the illegal election? Well, things have changed. Listen in.
I try to be a decent Protestant, not brag.
Wait.
Wrong one.
Is it the wrong one? Stand by.
When technology doesn't work, it sucks.
So, how can you say the last election was rigged? Well, when the country's largest law enforcement organization, the FBI, actively works on behalf of one political party, and when its largest intelligence gathering agency, the CIA, does the same, it's a little bit like what's happening in Michigan. When federal employees paid for by the tax dollars of everyone take an aggressive position on the side of one political party, you can't have a fair election because you're using public money to put your thumb on the scale on behalf of a partisan cause. It is totally immoral. And it's not free and fair. If our election took place in Bolivia, the 2020 presidential election took place in Bolivia, I can promise you the State Department would report back and say that was not a free and fair election. And Wikipedia would report it was a clouded election because there was fraud and interference, which there was. If some oligarch, some tech oligarch, spent nearly $500 million to control the mechanics of the Bolivian election in 2020, we would say it's not a legitimate election. But when Mark Zuckerberg does it in the United States, he's just helping with COVID. Yeah, we're really afraid of COVID, I'm sure. Yeah. So for saying that out loud, people are going to prison. And of course, the whole point is to convince you not to say it out loud. So don't let them. That's the only point. Don't let them. And if you keep telling the truth, some of you probably get indicted by Dan and Nessel. Well, you're going to women's prison, a little better. But still prison. But it's worth it. Anyway, don't be intimidated. Your children's future depends on your bravery.
Thanks, guys, for coming up here. So, with that, as I walked around, today, as we got ready for this event, I went around and asked a few people, asked them, all right, I got 30 minutes, I think. What should I talk about? One person said, can you please talk a little bit about Mike Pence? I think it was Jan, right? I could probably do that. I think I heard that too. And then some people asked me, can you talk about what's going on in the state of our country at the federal level in Congress? Because I happen to make cameo appearances every day on C-SPAN in the background, right? Anybody see that? So I can do that. And then the next piece is, what should we expect that the enemy be doing moving forward over the next year, and what do we need to do in order to counter that locally, at the state level, and nationally if we have that influence? So let's talk about that, right? How much time I got? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Perfect. Flawless. All right. I'm going to combine the Mike Pence thing with what their most probable course of action is in order to stop our election from being legitimate, and then what we're going to be able to do in order to counter that. And I'm in the mix going to talk about what Tucker just talked about. Who within the FBI, by name, who within the intel agencies, previous and current, were involved in the illegal heist in 2020 that are also going to be involved in the attempted heist in 2024, and how to be able to counter it. There is a play to counter it, and it involves all you and Tucker. So there you were, those that are election fraud deniers out there in Cuba City in 2016. The FISA court was defrauded by a guy by the name of Brian Auten, the supervisory intelligence analyst on the Crossfire Hurricane team. And then the senior supervisory special agent, known as Joe Pientka III, was also in on it, who happened to be the guy that was interviewing General Flynn along with Peter Strzok as they took their directions from the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI, Bill Priestap, for counterintelligence, with the goal of getting General Flynn to be fired or get him in a lie to prosecute him. Peter Strzok, one of his employees, was a gal by the name of Catherine Seaman, who was married to a guy by the name of Joshua Pitcock, who was Mike Pence's first chief of staff as a failed vice president under President Trump. Coincidence? Maybe. There are no coincidences. So then you pull that thread a little bit, and then you start to look into and scrutinize, well, who was involved in the White House that first term for Trump that created friction, that created that attempted 25th Amendments, the anonymous reporter that went over to the New York Slimes, all of that. All roads lead to who? Why do you think all roads lead to Mike Pence? As you start to peel the onion as it applies to the FBI, and if I'm not going to get in this 10, 12 minutes all the details. I have it in my Substack. I go into the name, date, time, place, location, transgression by individual. Bottom line, the 60 scum from the mostly former CIA directors and senior level officials were the ones that provided top cover for the Biden criminal syndicate laptop. Remember they censored New York Post? Those people are still in play. They then subsequently leveraged that relationship between them and those individuals I just mentioned in the FBI to go ahead and censor you and me over at Big Tech. Because the former general counsel of the FBI went over to Twitter to be the #2 attorney, who then helped coordinate the effort to censor you and me on social media, Big Tech, Big Media, through the San Francisco field office, where Joseph Pientka landed. Yep, the same guy. And then one of the guys that worked for him, Elvis Chan, who is in the Missouri v. Biden lawsuit for that First Amendment censorship scheme, was also coordinating with now Brian Otten, the same guy I just mentioned was on Crossfire Hurricane, now is still the supervisory intelligence analyst for an entity known as the Foreign Influence Task Force at the FBI's headquarters, created by Christopher Ray Epps, as I like to pronounce his name, the director of the FBI. So you have about 60 there, a half dozen here, another 39 that unmasked Flynn in 2016-17. All of them in on it. And now this week, John Brennan, one of the signatories of the 60, has now been announced along with Clapper to head up this DHS thingamajigger. Or is it thingamarigger? Right? So if you're Mike Pence and you served 12 years in the U.S. House of Representatives, 10 of those 12 years on the House Judiciary Committee, your chief of staff at the time, Joshua Pitcock, has close relations with the staff of organizations that you're supposed to provide oversight over that are right-leaning, meaning the DOJ and the FBI. You probably have a relationship with Bill Priestap, Jim Comey, Peter Strzok, Deputy Assistant Director later on, or excuse me, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. These are all the same people. But now with Tucker basically now publicly seeing it and saying it, it creates a different dynamic of what we have at our disposal to push back against these scum. So this is what they're going to do. This is my prediction. Most probable course of action. Because of the levers of power and influence that they have, they're going to go ahead and try and make sure that the beloved Uniparty's caretaker, Mike Pence, is promulgated through the Electoral College process by changing RNC rules, Wisconsin GOP rules, other states. If you're a mostly Democrat state like California, a trifecta, you're going to pass laws that don't allow Trump to be on the ballot in the Democrat states, so other Republicans can get the delegates. You make sure that you don't platform anything that Trump talks about on faux news, because Paul Ryan doesn't want him in. Neither does Robin Voss. And then in some of these Republican states, they're going to try to go ahead and pass legislation. Jefferson, please, you and Tim Ramtham, keep an eye on this. Don't let them slip in legislation that basically does the following. Paul Ryan provides a $787 million investment in deviant voting systems. In return, in that agreement, I would gather and say that maybe in return for that $787 million investment was a, hey, you're going to get the electoral outcome of your choosing in the primary in 2024. But the only thing that I ask for in return is, why don't you work with Robin Voss in Wisconsin and maybe some of the other state legislatures to pass laws that say that there is no mechanism to appeal the electoral outcome of the machinery. You just locked in the steal. You just legalized this, the heist. So if we can block that, that's one mechanism to push back on it. The other thing is, and we're starting to see this already, why don't we have, while the Z-list debate is going on, I think you mentioned it, right? Or the triple Z-list debate. Why doesn't Tucker, some of these super hosts, Tucker, Joe Rogan, Mike Lindell, Steve Bannon, host a fireside chat with the A-list candidates? Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. How many people are going to watch that in this world? About 100%? Because RFK Jr. does not get an opportunity to debate the carcass that's currently placed in the White House, right? So this gives him an opportunity to get his message out. It also allows us to bankrupt faux news, which is the biggest problem going into the primary for the Republican nomination. Number two, it's a platform that allows us to educate the country that these state legislatures could potentially steal your vote from you before we even have a primary by blocking certain people off of the ballot. RFK and Trump. So we push back on that. And then we create this content at the same time that the Z-list debates are going on, hosted by Faux News and the CCP-RNC. I already mentioned, he's already been at 300, 400 million views. 300 million views with just Trump. We're looking at 500 million, maybe up to 1 billion if you have an RFK fireside chat with Trump and Tucker. And when you do it at the same time that their beloved debates are going on, that's where you start to castrate them. Just like they're trying to castrate our children. Right? Simple. So, 4 more debates going on. How about the next one Mike Lindell talks about as a host? Melting the machines. Going to paper ballot, hand count in person, one day, right? And then who you need to contact in order to be able to do so in your state legislature. Number 2, why not have, oh, I don't know, Steve Bannon talk about how the Chinese Communist Party is taking over our institutions with those 2 individuals discussing it. And then how about we escalate and then bring in, have a super host by the name of Joe Rogan. What do you think the topic of conversation should be if Joe Rogan hosts Trump and RFK? Horse dewormer, maybe? Right? And how that's actually pretty safe and effective. It works against things. And how the jab doesn't. And then lastly, what about this? Elon Musk owns Twitter, now X. Of the people that I mentioned in the deep state, the 60 scum, the 39 that unmasked Flynn, the people that were on the Mueller team, those that were part of the whole whistleblower, Eric Ciaramella, and the Vindman brothers, and those attorneys that were involved in that. Do some of them have Twitter accounts? What if Elon Musk released all of their direct messages from the beginning of their account before Elon Musk hosts the last fireside chat to discuss the topic of First Amendment censorship, who was involved, and maybe he just proves to the entire world that my research on my Substack series known as Deep State Marauder is actually true. Beyond any doubt. And at the end of that fireside chat, I think Elon Musk should say something like, well, since the party structures aren't going to allow you to vote for who you want to vote for, why don't you just write them in? If you vote Democrat, it's spelled Kennedy. And if you want to vote Republican, it's spelled Trump.
Ivan Raiklin, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Ivan, please. Thank you, Ivan. Well done. Here's your phone.
This way.
All right, Ivan.